I'm going. Here we go. Good afternoon. Welcome into our WBAY newsroom and your First Alert Fastcast as we interrupt local news live to bring you what we are working on today locally for you. And that is going to start, of course, with the weather. I'm Chris Roth, and we bring in meteorologist Keith Gibson now to tell us what is expected to be a very busy night. In fact, Keith, it's all hand on deck in the First Alert Weather Center tonight.
Sure is. This could be the busiest day we've had in almost 2 years around here, Chris. It's been so quiet for so long. But let's talk about where we are headed right now as we look at First Alert Viper Max. To the north of Green Bay, there is some rain, some thunder, and some gusty breezes with a batch of rain west of Shawano. Some spots could have some wind gusts up to 40 miles per hour. So this is sub-severe activity. There's a little bit of bark, but not too much bite. This is going to be lifting out to the northeast over the next couple of hours. And then we're just going to be waiting to see what happens this evening. To the west, there is a tornado watch until 9 o'clock for all of Iowa. You see that line of storms east of Omaha. That is what's going to blast through here this evening. And it looks like the window of opportunity is from about 7 to about midnight. For these storms to come our way. So the storms are out there. It's just going to take several hours to get here unless something pops up between now and then. We should be okay until this evening. Right now, no power outages across northeastern Wisconsin being reported. I'm showing you that map because later on this evening, it could be lit up like a Christmas tree with a lot of widespread outages because we anticipate widespread damaging wind could be a concern this evening. That is the primary threat. Even though all modes of severe weather are possible, including a few spin-up tornadoes, wind damage on a widespread basis that could lead to power outages and downed trees would likely be the main problem if we're going to get it, and that would be primarily between about 7 and 11. So let me time this out real quick for folks watching just to give you a heads up on the storm. 5 o'clock, pretty quiet. By about, let's see here, let me advance this. By 7 o'clock, approaching areas along I-39 to the west of Watoma. And then as we get into 9, 10 o'clock through the Fox Valley, and it should be exiting by about 11 or midnight, Chris. So that is the current thinking about 4 or 5 hour window of opportunity. There could be some localized flooding, some hail, but primarily damaging wind and an isolated tornado threat. And we'll be here all evening long, but the worst of the weather will happen prior to midnight, somewhere in that 7 to 11 or midnight window.
All right, it's going to be a long night for you folks, Keith. I know you got a lot to get ready for us now, so we'll turn you loose. We thank you for that update as we will turn our attention to some of the other news we are covering here in Green Bay today. We're going to take you right to our website for this story. Let's bring this up for you here real quick if we can. This is the story we want to tell you about. There's the headline there. SWAT operation, arrest man suspected of assaulting a 12-year-old girl in Fond du Lac County. This is what we know right now. New details coming out today. You can scroll through this story if you'd like, but new details coming out about this situation. Around midnight early Sunday morning, law enforcement received a call from someone in the town of Oakfield. Authorities saying a 12-year-old girl had escaped a potential assault after being tied up and blindfolded. She ran to that home, knocking on the door, seeking shelter, saying she had escaped a man who was trying to assault her. As we have reported, that suspect and the victim's mother are now behind bars. And we are talking to the Fond du Lac County Sheriff today, who says the girl was tied up and blindfolded in that suspect's car and only reached safety after bravely fighting back. In this case, the sheriff says the suspect is a Nicaraguan man in his early 30s who entered the United States illegally, and he knows the victim's mother. Investigators believe that he paid the mother to spend time with that 12-year-old alone. Deputies arrested that man Monday night at a home on Marquette Street in Fond du Lac. Samantha Cavalli working on this story today, talking to the sheriff, and we'll have reports for you coming up tonight on Action 2 News at 4, 5, and 6 o'clock. All right, let's move to something a little more pleasant to talk about, and here it is. Football is back in Green Bay. The Packers opening the doors on their organized team activities today. This is the first of 3 weeks of OTAs, and they'll have mini camp and then, of course, the long summer break before training camp. Christian Watson, there he is right there, full go after hamstring problems that derailed a lot of his 2023 season, right? He's had some new training methods this offseason and a new training staff. So far, those seem to be working. Other news from today, tight end Tucker Kraft and right tackle Zach Tom both have pec injuries and are going to be out until training camp, maybe a little bit after that, according to Matt LaFleur, who ironically is rehabbing his own torn pectoral muscle. LaFleur also telling us today Packers going to have joint practices with both the Broncos and the Ravens during training camp. Only one practice with each team in hopes of avoiding a lot of those scuffles we've all seen, right? Take place on the second day of joint practices. They get a little heated. Packers are going to go to Denver early for that one practice before their preseason game with the Broncos on Sunday, August 18th. And the Ravens will come to Green Bay early for one practice ahead of the finale, the preseason finale, on August 24th. We'll have more from Packers OTA coming up tonight on Action 2 News at 5, 6, and 10 o'clock. Well, the end of an era came Sunday in Green Bay, right? 2 days ago, 4,000 runners taking part in the final Cellcom Marathon festivities in Green Bay. After 25 years, Cellcom no longer going to sponsor that event. Coming up on Action 2 News at 4:30 today, I went out and visited with Cellcom CEO this morning. We talked about this quarter century, this legacy that they have built and that they are now moving on from, the difficulty of that decision, but also what might come next for Cellcom and maybe even the marathon itself. So that story coming up tonight on Action 2 News at 4:30. And again, it was just a perfect day for a marathon, and we'll find out if the CEO thought it was a perfect ending for this 25-year run for Cellcom. For that first marathon started all the way back, as you know, in 2000. So those are some of the stories we are working on today on Action 2 News, and of course weather the primary focus for us, and we'll keep you up to date on when those storms might be hitting, as Keith talked about. So we'll start with that coming up tonight on Action 2 News at 4. We'll see you at 4, 4:30, 5, and 6 o'clock. Until then, we tell you to have a very good afternoon.